Welcome to the Anti-Noise Experience podcast, Endurance Noise, Random Musings. It's Friday, so it's Where is Jester time. Where are you, Ed?
I am at the San Diego airport right now, getting ready for a flight that'll take me to Portland.
Okay, so and the race is?
The race is the right behind you. I see it right there. It's the Angry Owl Ultramarathon. I think that's what it says, right?
Yeah, Angry Owl.
Owl Ultramarathons, and I'm doing the 24-hour race. This is in Salem, Oregon. So it starts tomorrow morning, I believe 9 a.m. I'll double check on that, but pretty sure it's 9 a.m. So I'll fly out tonight, get into Portland at like 11 o'clock, get my rental car, sleep in that, and head up to Salem.
Yeah, I remember when we were talking about this race and me going, I was thinking of possibly going, and you had a flight out, and I was like, Ed, it's like Salem's like 90 minutes away from the airport, and you were basically going to finish the race and catch a plane at 10:45. And I was like, that's not going to happen. Well, for you it might, because you'd actually be on time. You might be actually to the boarding gate and say, you were in the airport. So, but yeah, I just looked down here, and it does start at 9 with the 24, 12, and the 6 hour, and I've got a 10-mile and all that stuff at Bush's Pasture Park, Salem, Oregon. It says it's the loop is about a mile and has a combination of hard-packed dirt, well-maintained, non-technical trail, grass, packed gravel, and a bit of asphalt. Official results will count each loop as exactly 1 mile. So there you go. I know you guys. I'll just go through this really quickly. I was looking at the website. I do my half-ass internet research, and it showed that I think there's only been one person who's done 100 miles on this course.
Really?
Yeah.
Would that be Walters?
Yeah. Well, it says top performances, and it's got he did 100 last year, and then the next best is 88, and then third is 76, and the best woman is 88. So we shall see what's the story with that.
Steve's a decent 24-hour runner, so I'm gauging it on. But then again, if you're in the lead and you hit 100.
Yeah, no, that's not the part I meant, like one guy, but I'm saying just only one person has gotten to 100. So hopefully you're not running into another buzzsaw.
The good thing is our buddy, Craig Simmons, he did it.
Yeah.
And he took a video, fast, a fast action video, sped a video, and went over the course, and it looked like a really decent course. So
I'm sure it is. There's probably just not a lot of like a big competition. But when I first clicked on, I went, "Wait, only one person in the 2 years of the race has done 100 miles. What's Ed getting into this week?" It's kind of, but I'm sure the weather's probably good. I mean, Craig was supposed to go up to the race. I'm not really sure. I think they may be up there. Hopefully, he's still up there. I know I talked to him, and I did a podcast with him a while ago, and he was saying that hasn't been able to train as much, and his wife had some issues, but they were, I think, going to still be up there. So, in fact, the Angry Owl was what convinced him, that he could do it. That race director said, "Hey, this is how you do it. Do this, and so, so that's kind of the connection there. So, so you'll fly up there, and you just have a 24, so you'll have to be moving along.
Yep.
Right. And how you feeling?
I'm tired. I didn't get as much rest as I was hoping to get. Just trying to burn the candle on both ends and working, and that's the funny thing is people, when they learn that I do these, and especially if I'm doing them quite often, like, are you retired? It's like, no, I'm a working stiff. I got to do this on the weekend, and during the week still, run a business, and just stayed up too late and got too little sleep. So I'll get a good night's sleep tonight, even though I'll be sleeping in a rental car, but still I can do that. So I'll get a good night's sleep. I'll be fine tomorrow. Just, a little tired, but the good thing is it's a simple course. It'll be good weather. There'll be no humidity. And, if I just keep moving along at a 13, 14-minute clip, I'm going to go out. Okay. I said this last time, but this time I'm really, really going to trying to stick to 12 to 14-minute miles, even from the beginning, 12 to 13-minute miles, and of course that'll slow. If I can keep 12 to 13-minute miles going, and then by the time I'm at the 50-mile mark on 13, 14-minute miles, then get beyond that, I should have enough bank to where I could even do 15, 16-minute miles and still get in the 100 and the 24 without having to worry too much, as long as I don't go out too fast too soon. So that's the
All right.
plan.
Well, I got this cool called Dark Skies, I think is what it's called. It's a hyper local weather report. So, race start, it will be, well, at 8 o'clock it's 63. Some reason they just go 8, 10. So it'll be 63. But it looks like you're going to get warm there.
What temperature does it show?
4 o'clock, 98.
Yeah, but it's dry heat.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I guess that's the one thing. It's sort of. I think Salem's kind of inland, isn't it? It looks like. I can't. I'm sorry.
It must. Well, it must be. If it gets 98, it can't be
Yeah.
too close to the coast. So yeah.
Well, it was interesting because when I used to I coached high school Bakersfield drillers, and of course, Oregon Ducks and all that. So yeah, it looks like it's basically kind of like Bakersfield. You can see like there's green on both sides, like there's a mountain range, and it's kind of like the valley, kind of like how where I live here is a Central Valley. But what I was saying is I had a kid who was going to Oregon State, not Oregon University, and Eugene is kind of cooler, sort of, but Oregon State, he's like, oh yeah, it's just farmland. It's like not what you. I mean, you vision Oregon, you think of like where Tracy B is every weekend. She's running along the coast and it's wet and green and all this. And he's like, no, it basically looks like the Central Valley of California. So that was so that's probably what you're doing. So yeah, it'll get a little warm, but it's better than here in California, where we're really getting warm, and then you'll be done. Yeah, so it just looks like it just kind of like ramps up right around the 2 to 4, and then bam, and once the nighttime comes, it gets back down into the 70s. So yeah, so you should be good. It's
I think so.
Yeah, so that'll be, like your temperatures are, Saturday's going to be 58 to 99. Today it was 52
That's
to
quite
88.
a range.
Yeah, that's quite a range.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at least it'll be cooler in the evening.
Sure.
So that's so you're going to be doing that one. I guess you had another trip around the earth, or you're heading out for another around the earth. you're heading out for another trip around the sun. Your birthday.
Oh, yeah, it's true. I was lost on that. Yeah, tomorrow.
I was mangling the hell out of it. So they often say like, oh, I'm ready for the big ultra, going around the sun, one more lap around the sun.
Yeah.
So you'll be heading out for a lap. 59
58,
then, huh?
58. Tomorrow I turn 58.
Oh, okay, so you finished 57 laps.
Yeah. So 57. Tomorrow I'll be 58. The big 5-8. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that'll be. And then it's just another couple of years. There's one thing that's funny with runners. Like sometimes I'll be in public or something. I'll ask someone their age, and this big thing like, "Oh God, you ask them your age." And I'm like, "Well, runners, we either all know your age anyways, or we're all looking forward to bouncing to a new age group." And so you get a renewed vigor, and then like kind of you get towards the tail end of an age group, you're like, "Oh." So that's kind of.
I can't wait to get to that new age, because also if anyone's going for Boston qualifiers, that makes a difference too. When you get to that new age group, they give you an extra 5 or 10 minutes, I think. So
yeah. So that's your plan, and then I guess how we still don't know anything with with what's going to go on in 2021. It's they've just canceled college football. In fact, I just saw, because I'm more interested in like cross country and track, and they basically aren't going to have fall championships for any of the sports. It was interesting. I was just listening yesterday to the Oregon State coach, not Oregon, the Oklahoma coach. They've had a couple national championships, and he was holding practice. And then today, I guess the NCAA guy came out. So we'll see what happens with your quest for the following year. But you're still got your schedule of what you're planning on doing for the rest of 2020, right?
I you know what, I've got a few lined up. I've got to get back on Ultra Sign Up and take a look and see. I've got a couple of gaps here and there, but I'm trying to put a string of them together so that that's something that I could use, as we talked about, to hopefully market to a potential sponsor. We'll see, but definitely. My ambition of starting at the beginning of 2021, I've definitely scrapped that. So probably either the beginning of 2022 or possibly even on my birthday next year. So maybe a year from
Yeah.
now. Because that would be kind of cool. If let's say I did decide to go for the 60, it would be kind of cool to start out at age 59 and then when I turn 60,
Yeah.
hit my 60th for the year. But we'll see. There's a lot of time between now and then, and a lot can happen. And who
Yeah.
knows, our new normal with this COVID-19, it's so crazy. So I don't know how long that's going to last.
Well, that, and you also, I mean, I keep holding up. I know it's a goal of yours to do that 3,100-mile race, and
Yes.
if it was possible, that seems like if anything could be a socially distanced event, that definitely could, because they, only have a dozen people in the race,
Right.
and yeah, you're going around the school on a one, and they do have the volunteers helping out, but you've got a pretty contained type of thing. So that would be kind of cool. I mean, that's something you could always end up doing is that 3,100, and that would definitely put you on the map too. And then the following year when you recover from that, then go off and do the trace the record. So
Yeah.
lots of things going on. Speaking of
Sure.
records, I'm sure you probably may have heard of it, though you were saying you've gotten busy back with work with your CPR training. But, the Badwater 146 was broken.
Did Harvey Lewis do it after all, huh?
Yes.
So I knew Marshall Ulrich had a 33 something. What did Harvey do?
Yeah, he beat it by about 20 minutes.
Wow.
So it was pretty fun. It was pretty cool to watch. I mean, follow along on Facebook and Twitter, and I did a few podcasts about it. So Harvey, decided to start when Marshall started at 6 o'clock in the evening, so that if he did break the record, he was going to have to finish up at Whitney at 2 or 3 in the morning. Brutal. And from all reports, it sounded like he was doing pretty well throughout most of the run. Didn't really have too many issues. Got the Lone Pine going up, and as you well know, going up that 13 miles, heck, I don't even like driving a car. It's a common thing, driving a car up that thing, but you've done that many times, and we might actually have you describe that last 13 miles in a second here. So as he was going up there, he was kind of getting discouraged and wasn't sure if he was going to go for it. And then he thought, well, if I do a half a mile up the trail, at least I've gone further than I ever have at Badwater. And, then he was also concerned, with safety, and but I believe it's now his wife. I think he proposed to her at there one year.
He did.
Yeah.
Yes, he did at Badwater. Uh-huh.
So his wife said, you need to just keep going, do it. And so then Michael Jimenez was his pacer and crew throughout a lot of the race. And anyways, Michael, I guess, drove by him as he was going up the portal. And after he'd had some pep talks, when Michael drove by, he says, "Get your trail shoes on. We're heading to the top." So, and Michael was very excited about that. And then another couple joined him. So he had a level of safety. So he had Michael and then 2 other people. And Marshall had been riding his crew back and forth, and said, "Please call me before you head out." And so Marshall gave him a pep talk, and he said that, like, once he hit the trail, he was going along really good, and then you get to that trails crest part and it just gets kind of fugly. And he said, you saw me the last half mile, it looked pretty bad and it was pretty cold, and then when they finished, they got into the the cabin up there.
Oh, they did stay at the cabin?
Yeah, well, they went in there and stayed there for a while. And then I think he said it took him like 10 hours to get down. So it was pretty slow going. So, but yeah, so like describe, I mean, when you get in when you've done Badwater now 9 times, and when you get in a Lone Pine, how are you usually feeling? Or is it all over the map?
It every year is different. Usually the good thing is, once you get to Lone Pine, okay, it's just 13 miles, just a half marathon, which, on a normal day, a half marathon, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, but, different story, because you're going from 3,000 foot elevation at Lone Pine to, 8,300 feet at the top of Portal Road.
A mile climb, yeah.
So you've got quite a bit of climbing. It's at first starts out not so bad, but then when you get to those switchbacks, and it's just like the never-ending back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and higher and higher, and then you get up to tree line, and that's nice. Now you get cooler weather, but you're feeling it for sure, and you're just counting the miles down. It's like, oh, I can't wait to be done with this.
And what kind of you kind of know you usually know your numbers, like what kind of splits you've done that last 13 in a range, like from
Um,
6 hours to 12 hours or,
you know what? I don't know my actual split, but I do know that I usually am pushing pretty strong on the power walk.
yeah,
I can usually knock out 15, 16-minute miles, which
that'd be
for
three and a
going
half hour.
uphill,
Yeah.
that's moving pretty quick. So I think that's probably about what I'm doing. Yeah, about 3.5 hours probably.
Yeah.
But
Because
I'm
16-minute
moving.
miles is 3.5 pace generally.
Yeah,
So,
I'm usually moving still pretty strong.
yeah.
I get like a second wind. Once you get past Lone Pine, you get that second wind because you can smell the barn
Oh, yeah.
and you can also typically if you can spot someone ahead of you, it's like, okay,
Mm,
that's my target. I just want to try and I can just catch that person and pass that person. So
yeah.
that I always like it when there's people out on the course because it gives me something to focus on, gives me an incentive to try
Hmm.
and I don't you never know because there's 3 different waves. So
Yeah.
they could be someone who's in a wave behind you and they're still, even if you pass them, they're still going to be ahead of you. But
Yeah.
you'll figure that out. I mean, once you get close enough to where you can see their number, then your crew
Yeah.
can just look it up on the book and see what wave they started in.
Well, that's one of the advantages, and we've talked about this quite a bit on this podcast, is hey, all you ultra runners, practice walking, practice hiking, because you get out there and you just put it into walk mode and you can crank along. But you'll see a lot of those guys, and they're good runners, guys and gals. But when they got to start walking, they just, and I follow a lot of the people on Instagram and the internet, and you see them doing all this epic training. And I'm always like, how about going for some hikes? How about,
Yeah.
and they just get this mindset that I'm a runner. And I'm like, well, there's not a lot of people running the whole way. Occasionally, like the Japanese guy a year or two ago sure did blitz it. And every time I saw him, he was running like something like 10-minute miles or 10-minute
Yeah.
pace
Crazy.
the first time I ever actually witnessed Badwater finish. I took groups of people up hiking at Whitney. I probably told you this before, but went up there with a couple of ladies and we were going to hike the trail camp, and I kind of set up the date so that we would be there when Badwater finished. And so we're driving up the Whitney Portal Road and we see this long-haired guy with long hair, and we stop and we cheer him on. And it was Michael Wardian.
Oh, wow.
First time I'd ever seen Michael Wardian in person.
Huh.
This is probably like 2011. And
Huh.
it was so funny, like when we're getting out of the car, one of my athletes is like, make sure you got your keys because it's a long walk back to town. And she said that like right when Michael's going by. He's at a mile 128 or something, and she's worried about walking 2 miles to and
Yeah.
but then we drove up the road and we caught, I think there was an Asian guy up the road. And then we found out like the Wardian wasn't winning. We were like, oh, he's third. And then they're like, yeah. And then when we passed the other guy, and then we got to the portal, we passed the guy who was in first, and he had a huge entourage of friends and everything there. And it was Oswaldo Lopez.
Oh, yeah.
And he
Oh,
won,
that was the year he won.
yeah.
Okay.
And I had heard of Oswaldo, but I didn't know him. And then, of course, a year or two later, I crewed for him at Badwater Salton Sea. So I got to know him really well, and I'm a great guy.
But he lives in the Central Valley, doesn't he? Not
Yes,
too far north of you?
yeah, I live in Bakersfield, and then there's Fresno is a bigger city, and then right above Fresno is called Madera, and he lives in Madera.
Okay.
So yeah, so I end up know him real well, and he's such a great guy. And I remember just seeing him finish, and then it was truly amazing. Like he finishes, he did it in like 24 hours, and I just remember like he's being interviewed by Chris, the race director, and he's answering the questions like he just got up, have a
Got a
nice
5
day.
miler.
Yeah, no, not even run. Like he just kind of like, went to work. I mean, and just bang, 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 completely coherent, just, phenomenal how he was just so composed and like he didn't even look like that. It was truly amazing. And then of course, telling stories about him, but Oswaldo, the year he had that battle with someone else we talked about, Mike Morton, who came back after being gone for 20 plus years. And
Yeah.
they battled back and forth, and Mike beat him by only a minute or two on that race a year or two later. And after the race, when Oswaldo finished, he took his bib off and gave it to Mike because Oswaldo was wearing bib number one.
Yeah.
And he gave it to Michael. So good stuff
Yeah.
there. So yeah,
He's
that's
a good guy.
Now, when you've done the 135, you have done all the way to the top once or twice, right? Or once did you do it?
No,
Oh,
I've never done it
you've been to the
myself.
top
What
of Whitney.
happened
I've
is
seen it. Yeah.
I've been to Whitney because my friend Nathan Bonquire
Oh yeah.
and Nicole Madera, they were, this is 2015. They were doing it together.
Hmm.
And so Nathan had crewed for me in 2013, I believe. Yeah, 2013. He was on my crew, and then he went and did Badwater in 2014, and so did Nicole. And
Yeah.
2014 was the weird year where it was
Oh yeah.
the closest we got to Badwater Basin was like 100 miles away because we started at Lone Pine and did this out and back 3 different times. And anyway, and then 2015, Nicole and Nathan both did the solo 146. So they started out at different times, and then they planned it that Nicole would probably be a little bit faster. She started after Nathan, but they planned to where they would get into Lone Pine probably together, and then go from there on up with their entourage. And so what happened is we had 13 people who were going up to Whitney. Only two had ever gone up Whitney before. Alpha, you know Alpha,
Yeah.
and Nathan had some of the quite a few times, but nobody else had. So we had 11
Yeah.
all rookies, and we got started out really late, and we got up there, and everybody was just worn out.
Yeah.
And we went into the cabin, and it was, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and there were some of the crew were like, oh, I want to get down because what if lightning hits? And it's like, there's no way we're going to go down now at this
Yeah.
time. And
No.
this, you're going to
Yeah.
kill yourself. So, and Nathan and Nicole were shot. They were just wasted because they just done 146 miles.
Yeah.
And so I just said, no, we're going to stay here. So that was actually July 3rd. We went up. Oh, actually, we got there maybe 11 o'clock at night. And so we were actually on top of the mountain when it turned July 4th. So, the whole thing that I was telling people, look, we're celebrating our nation's birthday, and we're at the highest place in the
The lower
contiguous
48. Yeah. The lower
yeah,
48.
exactly.
Yeah.
So we're the only people up here right now. We're celebrating the 4th of
Yeah.
July up here, and but yeah, it was a cool experience. But I can't imagine doing it as part of 146. That would be and I don't do elevation, and I don't get along well together, so it would definitely be a challenge.
I often tell people too, it's not really 146 because it's 11 miles back to your
It's
car.
157.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
yeah, and for me, climbing, I've never had a problem climbing. It's the downhill with my age and my size just beats me up. Like the fastest I've done it was back in 2013 with Allison, my friend Allison, and we went up in 7 and down in 6. Now most people could come down in like 3 or 4, but it's just too tough on me. Speaking of Alpha, it was kind of funny when you mentioned her name because 4 years ago I went up to attempt the John Muir Trail with my friend Claudia, and we were at trail camp. We ran into her. I have a selfie photo of her at Whitney, so it's kind of funny that we ran into her. So the 146 is probably another something that you're gonna. And then you ever on your radar really in terms of
No, I want to do it
want to
at
do it,
least once because I want to be able to
but
know
not
that
but
I've
independent,
done it.
but independent of the race, huh?
Yes,
Yeah,
because I like to
yeah,
finish the race, stay, and just hang out and cheer for people. That's part of the fun for me.
yeah,
So if I was doing the 146 as part of the official 135, I'd lose all that
yeah.
and lose the fun pizza party. So this year, as you know, I was going to do it on July 4th.
Mm-hmm.
Was going to do my own solo 146, and that kind of ran to a bit of a snag, and so I scrapped that idea. So some year I'll do it.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't think I would never do the official race just because the expense and stuff. But and then and then the problem is I don't think I could ever do the 146 because I just couldn't imagine uh, asking so many people to help me do it. You know what I mean? It'd be like, and I could do the 135, but man, that last 11 miles going up Whitney, it's just pretty tough. In fact, it's kind of funny. It's a theme of this week on my podcast because I talked on Sunday to Adam of BB Farms, and he's a
Oh,
big Badwater junkie, and he's
hmm.
always wanting to tackle the 146. And we were talking because Harvey had just finished, so it was kind of one of those interesting conversations, just talking about all the logistics of it. And so, yeah, you'll be out there next summer if they have it, and it would be your 10th, which,
Yeah, which Harvey got me now because we both were going into this year having completed 9. We were the only two that this would be our. Yeah, there's
yeah,
people who have done more than that, like
yeah,
Ray Sanchez and Wiener Dog. What's his name? That's his nickname, Wiener Dog.
yeah. I know you were talking about Dave or something from Southern
Yeah,
California.
yeah. This was Westergaard.
Yeah,
Danny Westergaard. Yeah,
yeah.
he's done like 13 or 14. So, but now Harvey did one more than me, even though it wasn't an official Badwater 135. But he's done the 146 and 9 of the Badwater 135. So, but next year, if we both go, we'll be both be going for our official 10th 135.
Are you planning on are you going to stop at 10? I know you always say, I mean, is that the plan or you?
You know what? My plan was to stop at 1, and then once I did 1, it's like, well, I might as well do 2, and then 3, then might as well do 5, and then somehow it morphed into, okay, let's go for 10.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that 10's probably enough, although I might hit 10 and go, well, yeah,
Yeah.
but a dozen would be kind of cool. And there's a whole group of people who've done 10 and then stopped. Like Dean Carnazes has done 10 and then stopped, and others. So it's like, well, I don't know, maybe 11 or 12.
Yeah.
Who knows? And then, depends on where I'm at in life and what I'm trying to accomplish and what goals I have set. I don't know, but definitely I want to get to 10, and then we'll take it from there.
Well, I've been out there a couple times, driven out. I went out the year that my friend, that Joel finished it. Did your battery run out?
No.
Yeah.
I got a call started to come in.
Oh,
When
I
a
know.
call comes in, the face blank's out completely. So I got rid of that.
Yeah.
So we're good.
So I would have helped out Joel that year, but I had promised someone way in advance that I would do the Tahoe 100, and they're like within a week of each other, and there's no way I'm going to hurt the chances of either one of the athletes and do the Tahoe crew and pace of Tahoe and both. So I was out there that year, and I've been out there a few other times. And then of course, a couple years ago, I was with Carla, and I do have to say that it is very addictive, the race and just all the people and just being out there. I could imagine once you've run one, it's just this big, crazy family. And
it is.
I could definitely see that it would be like, and that then, in fact, I think he kind of changed up some of his selection procedure because he was having that issue of like just every year everybody just wants to come back. Yeah, too many veterans. So he did like 40, 60 or something this year.
I think even a bigger. I think it might be 30, 70. Yeah, but he definitely had a heavier weighted toward the rookies this year. But it's my favorite race. People are always asking, okay, of all the hundreds you've done, what's your favorite? And I like it for a number of reasons. I like it because it's a team effort, because you have a whole crew.
Yeah.
So you have that shared experience with your team, and then it's limited to 100, so it makes it more special. And then most of the people, or a lot of people that are there, even when there's the newbies, the rookies, they're people who are experienced ultra runners, so most of those. And then I love the challenge of it because it's not a guaranteed finish, and it's also in my wheelhouse in that it's all a road race. I'm a road runner, and
same
I
here.
do well in heat, and it has 3 climbs that aren't too bad. They're long and gradual.
Oh yeah, they're hiking. You just hike, but you're never taxed. It's just
no. And the elevation that tops out at 83, but that's at the very end. So all those factors, it makes it a good race for me, and I've done fairly well at it. So I do love it. I don't love the price tag of it, but that's the way it goes.
What's that?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say what.
Go ahead.
What's your fastest time on there?
31 something. So
and your slowest?
44.
Yeah.
So I have a range of 13 hours. So my best time was my first year. I was in the first wave. This is when it was a morning start, and they had 6 a.m., 8 a.m., 10 a.m. I was in the 6 a.m. start, and by by the time I got through Stovepipe, I was heading up the climb. I was in first position and was there for quite a while. And this was 2011. So, of course, guess who was the first person to pass me? We just were talking about this earlier.
Oh, like
2011
Michael Morton
would
and
have been
Oswaldo? Or no?
Oswaldo,
Yeah.
yeah, and then Wardian, yeah. So that group passed me. But I ended up being eighth across the finish line, but because I had a 4-hour head
Yeah.
start on the third wave, I was 13th overall. Yeah, that was a nice little race. And then a couple of years ago, they had just really weird weather. Like the heat is always supposed to be in Death Valley, and that's why they changed it now to a morning start, or excuse me, a night start, supposedly to get rid of that super hot. And as we talked about, all the veterans that I know would much prefer to get through the heat
Yeah.
of the day, but start in the morning, so you're not going through 2 full nights of no sleep. But anyway, that year it was hotter in Owens Valley than it was
Yeah.
actually in Furnace Creek area, and it was 128 degrees, and had some weather came in, so there's also humidity mixed in, and then
Yeah. I
going
remember
up,
the humidity. I
yeah,
remember the
and
humidity was crazy. It actually drizzled a little or something
yeah,
out there.
it was just weird. And going up Portal Road, we had flash flooding and hailstorm that came in, so it was just weather was all over the place. But yeah, that one took me 44 hours, and it was a struggle. I've never, on all the hours that I've done, I've never once thought, the thought never crossed my mind, all right, I want to quit. It's just never, other races it's crossed my mind many, many times, but never at Badwater. And I think a big part of that, I think, and we may have talked about this before, you look at the success or the finish rate of Badwater, it's typically 70 to 80%. And a lot of times you can judge the difficulty of a 100-mile race by looking at the finish rate. So you look at a finish of 70 to 80%, you think, well, that must not be that difficult of a
Mm-hmm.
race. But I think a big part of it is, one, you're paying a ton of money to be there. So you've got that in the back of your mind. You know, I don't want to come out here, spend all this money, and then quit. Plus, you've got this whole team that's dependent upon
Yeah.
you, and not only dependent upon you. You know, they gave up a week of their lives to be there for you, but then they're also there to help you, so that if you are suffering, they're there to give you the pep talk. And it's a roving, you know, you have your roving fan club because they're going along with you the whole way.
Oh yeah.
So I think there's a number of factors that make the finish rate at Badwater much higher than it probably would be at many other races.
Oh, most definitely. We were cutting you off, but you were talking like, so the entry fees, $1,500, $2,000, I guess now. But maybe you talk about, because, we just kind of do whatever, and not a whole lot on it. We might go back and look at not much on the Angry Alex. We don't know much about it. But maybe you can go into some of the other, you can briefly go over what the entry fee is, but then kind of give people an idea of like what's the cost and what other things you've got to take care of.
Sure. Well, the entry fee, it's when I did it first in 2011, I think it was $9.99, and now it's $14.99. And some of us veterans are a little bit nervous because it's been there for a while,
Mm-hmm.
which means it's probably ripe to go up. Who knows? We'll see what Chris does, but whatever he makes it, there's always going to be people that are going to want to do it no matter what. It's just the way it is. It's such a unique race and it has that reputation. And it's, I was going through TSA, and I had
you're wearing the shirt.
my Badwater shirt on, and one of the TSA agents is like, "Oh, Badwater," and most people have no clue what it is. And I said, "Oh, are you familiar with that?" "Oh, yeah." He said, "I follow the race all the time. Have you done it?" And then, of course, we started chatting once he found out about that. So people who know about it, they really they know about it. So there's an entry fee, and then, of course, you're going to need to have a vehicle. Most people rent a van, although Carla goes in some, I don't know how she does it.
We did it in a Prius.
And a little Prius. And Danny Westergaard, same thing.
Yeah.
He'll go in a little compact car, and he has his cousin who flies it every year. And then Patrick Sweeney will sometimes be his crew, or last year he had his daughter, and that was it, 2 people. Carla, usually it's her and her daughter and one other person maybe.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how I ended up. We ended up having a couple more people, but yeah, that's Yeah.
So that's, I mean, if you can do that to save some money. So if you can bring a car, that saves you. But we rent a van, so you got the van rental, and then you check in Sunday. So that means, and the race doesn't start till Monday night. So then you've got to have a hotel for Sunday night. And if you stay at Furnace Creek, the rates there are like $180 for a room, and then there's whatever Death Valley taxes there are. So it's $200 a night. And if you have crew, you're probably going to have 2 rooms, so that's
Yeah.
$400 a night. So what some of us do is either Beatty, which is in Nevada, but it's like 40 miles away from Furnace Creek, or go back into Pahrump, which has a lot of options, very
Yes.
cheap. And then what we've done the last couple of years is we've actually done an Airbnb
Yeah, I remember
where
that.
we rent a whole house
Hmm.
for less. And then a lot of times they're really cool about, like, if you stay at Furnace Creek or any hotel, their checkout is 11 a.m. Well,
Hmm.
if your race isn't until the first race is 8, and then the second wave is 9:30, and I'm now using the second wave, and the third wave is 11 p.m.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? Hang out in your car for hours? So then if you rent for a second day and you only use half of it, but the Airbnb, a lot of times those people are really cool,
Yeah.
and especially once they know what you're doing. Every time I've told them that, they're like, "Oh yeah, go ahead. You could." I
Yeah.
say, yeah, can I pay you extra and stay till mid afternoon? And they're always like, "Yeah, you don't have to pay me. Just
Yeah.
go ahead and stay. You're fine." And so you got that expense, but then at the other end, when you finish the race, then you have at least one night. And what we'll sometimes do is get a hotel room for Tuesday night, because I'm always thinking that I'm going to be faster than I am. So I want to have one ready, because if you don't book one up, you're out
Yeah.
of luck. They're all booked up. So you've got to have one booked, and then we end up just throwing that away basically because we don't use it. And then so Wednesday night, and again another couple of rooms. So yeah, you start adding up. Typically, Chris will do a survey at the end of most years, and typically people spend 5 to 10 grand to
Yeah.
do Badwater. Now, that's people who also are flying from out of state. It's my backyard, so I don't have any of
Yeah.
that expense. We've got it down to, I think you can't do anything about the entry fee. The entry is what it is, so that's a
Yeah.
set. But I think we got our other expenses, the car rental, the hotels, all the food, ice. You spend easily $100 or more just on ice
Yeah.
alone. But I think we got it down to around a grand on all the expenses that we have
Hmm.
outside of the entry fee. And if we cut back on 1 or 2 crew, we could maybe save a little bit of money. But the thing I think is important with the crew is that's an opportunity for someone who's interested in doing Badwater,
Yes.
but doesn't really know. And so to have an opportunity to come out and crew, because that's how I started. I crewed for
Yeah.
Brian Recor in 2010, and I got a feel for it. It's like, okay, yeah, I definitely want to do this. But having that opportunity, so it's kind of like when you are the runner, it's your way of sort of paying it forward, is allowing people who are interested in maybe entering Badwater at some
Yes.
point to be able to come and crew for you and get that experience.
Well, and it's also part of the entry process. It's one of the
It
questions:
helps.
have you crewed,
Yes.
paced, volunteered at the race? And especially depending on your demographic, you're going to definitely have to check off all those boxes, because
Yeah.
if
Uh,
you're like, if you're a 40-year-old male California resident,
if
there's
you
a
haven't crewed,
yeah,
yeah.
you got to accrue and do the Salton Sea and all that stuff. You're talking
Yes.
about the entry process. I don't know if you saw this, but one of the hotels, and I think it's the Whitney, one of them there, there was a fire at it
No, didn't know that.
At the Lone Pine. A vehicle crashed into it and caused a fire. So
Ooh.
along with everything else they're having to deal with, because with the COVID, the tourism is obviously down, but they're also having issues with just tourists coming and not really respecting rules and regulations and all that stuff. And then like about a month ago, on that, because the 395 goes right through town, and they had a crash. Some car just it was here. 395 opens a hay truck fire, and it caught fire at the downtown Lone Pine, 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Mm.
Yeah, according
Did,
to
did it say
adjacent building.
what hotel it was?
That's what I was trying to find here, and it doesn't say the. Yeah, there says there's a Greenside Motel. Oh, why doesn't it have fire power pole near Shell and Carl's Jr. collapsed with live wires resting on the truck. Well,
Mm.
Carl's Jr. is kind of down the street. Oh, interesting. So, but yeah, so that was kind of a Whitney Motel. Yeah, it was on
Mm. Whitney
August
Mo-
1st.
Intel is one of the ones that I stay in. I don't know if I should say this, but I'll go ahead. There are two hotels I'm aware of that have 3 beds in one room, and one even has 4. So I'm not going to say which one it is because that's the one that I try and always get booked because I can get one room and get all my crew in one room. But yeah, Whitney is one that does have multiple beds in a single room. They have a couple rooms where they have 3 beds. So, and my crew know coming into it, they're going to recruit me. I tell them right from the start, I'm one of the cheap guys. You know, there are some guys who will put you up and do all kinds of, just take care of you and put you in the nicest hotels, give you the nicest meals. With me, you're getting, junk food and drive-through and the cheapest hotel, and we're all going to be in one room pretty much. You might be sleeping on the floor. So if you're not okay with that, then say so now, because that's the way we roll, because I'm trying to save some money. And that really, I think it separates the wheat from the chaff, so to speak, because those who are there to really be a part of it and to help me,
Yes.
and they're committed to it. They're like, Ed, I don't care. I'll sleep on the floor. I'll sleep
Yep.
in the car. And
Yes.
then, so, and then once I know that, it's like, no, we'll make sure you have a bed. You won't sleep on the floor. I just say that to see if you're willing to sleep
Yeah.
on the floor. But now that you're willing, then no, we'll have a bed for you.
Yeah, it was at 4:30 in the morning. It crashed into Whitney. I've shared the screen with you. I don't know if you can see it
Yeah, I can see
actually.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and the north end of the hotel was fully engulfed in flames. And there's a
Wow.
picture of like,
Oh,
yeah, so you can Google it, but
poor
yeah, that's
poor
def
Lone Pine. They've gotten so messed up this year because, okay, there's an earthquake just after Badwater was announced that it was going to happen, the earthquake and the landslide, and then they've lost so much tourists
yes.
being able to go there. And then the one thing that Badwater does is it brings in a
Oh yeah.
lot of revenue,
Oh
and
yeah.
they look forward to it. That is the peak for some of those businesses. Their peak is Badwater as far as
Oh
the money they generate. And so having a year where they don't have Badwater, that's hitting their bottom line already. They're having difficulties, of course, with COVID. So poor businesses.
yeah, because I've been like keeping track. I always kind of keep track of the High Sierra because I often last minute get invited to go on hikes, and I'm kind of like a Sherpa. People know I do it, so they'll say, "Hey, you want to come along?" And I kind of prefer that than having some epic plan. I was supposed to do the High Sierra Trail this summer in a couple weeks, but I'm not going to do it because my climbing's just not where it's at. I'm recovering pretty good from my fall flatland, but yeah, so I've been checking out and just keeping that. So I'll be going up to Whitney to pick the gals up. But yeah, it's definitely. But so I've been on the boards, and yeah, it's definitely impacting with the social distancing and all those kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting
Yeah.
to see how Oregon is. Let's see here, and then I guess yeah, just kind of was kind of curious because of what's his name? What's his name? Harvey Lewis doing that FKT. Been around for a long time and getting it. It makes it a stout record because Harvey's a phenomenal runner. He's done really well in the Big's backyard and in the World Championship 24-hour teams. He's probably 150, 160 miles in 24 hours, right? Isn't he around there? Yeah.
Over 150 for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it kind of makes you realize, like, I mean, Marshall was the first and a pioneer, but it really makes you realize, like, Marshall was really good. I mean,
Yeah.
I've always, read about him and stuff, but I never thought of him as maybe particularly fast, in terms of, but obviously when you got someone like Harvey with all the experience and he's still crushing really fast marathons and all of that, and to come out in 2020 with all, to do it 30 plus years ago, it's definitely a
Yeah.
phenomenal, more than I even realized. It kind of made me go, Wow. When Marshall threw down that time was definitely I got
And I'll bet he probably broke the record by 10 hours or something when he did it.
yeah. Oh yeah. I'll have to like hunt down and read up on that. Speaking of, because I cover all kinds, I think I was talking to Adam about this, about, being a runner and just, doing, and you do this, you run trails, you run roads, you run tracks. You don't necessarily, you drop down to marathons, but you run all kinds of distances, all kinds of races, and how so many people get all involved in just, trails, especially. It's just all about the trails. But today was some pretty historic. They had the Monaco Diamond League track meet. It's in Monaco in Europe, and they actually were able to have fans in the stands, socially distanced, but they had over 5,000 people in the stands.
Wow.
It looked like they were kind of having families sit together, kind of like what we are supposed to do here. So there'd be pockets of 3 or 4 people, and they were wearing masks. And so it was super cool to actually see a real live track meet. Some Americans did fly over there. Donovan Brazier, our 800-meter kid who won the world championships last year, threw down a phenomenal time, and he brought along a kid from Kansas who now is like number 8 on the all-time 800 list for America. So it's pretty amazing that they did so well. But the big highlight of this race was there's a Ugandan, Joshua, and I destroy his last name. He won last year. He won the 10,000 world championships, and he also won the cross-country championships. Well, with the Olympics would be going on right now, the Japan Olympics. And he's been training, he's been in Uganda, and he's like, well, since there's no championships, in fact, he's one of the only people ever to win the cross country and 10K title in the same year, I think. And I think the only other guy that done it was the guy who had the record in the 5,000, Bekele. And Bekele did it 14 or 16 years ago. He set this record. Well, this guy is like, I'm going to go to this meet and I'm going to break the world record. And at the time, the world record's like 12:37, and his best time is only like 12:50, because he never runs fast. He just runs to win. And so he's kind of very Jester like, I'm going to run and break the record. And like, the record's been around for 14, 16 years. And so he has been in Uganda training. Uganda only has one rubber track. One all-surface track. He was training on an egg-shaped track that was 415 meters long, grass, and it had like a hill in it. It had like a 2-meter hill in it. And then to get there, with all the travel restrictions, the Ugandan president chartered him a flight, and he did some Jester-like traveling. It took him 80 hours to get. He traveled for 3 days. Jeez. And I bring this up because it goes to the theme of like, if you believe it, you can achieve it. So he, spends all this time traveling. He gets there. The conditions are usually decent, but it was a little too humid there. And so the race today, they set out. They have pacers with him for about half the race, about a mile and a half. He drops them. He's running 61s with them. He starts running 60-second quarters, 4-minute mile pace, and he broke the record by 2 seconds.
Nice.
Basically solo. Yeah,
awesome.
just unbelievable, phenomenal,
for him.
and just so rock solid, confident and stuff. So it's pretty exciting to see that. But just all around the world, I like just talking about all the different things and all the different kinds of racing.
It's good there's some world running event taking place for once. Everything else is all canceled and.
Yeah, there's gonna be a pretty good size track meet with a lot of our stars are gonna be running somewhere in the Midwest. And as you found, you've been traveling and doing these races, and so far so good. And hopefully that continues. It's just it is what it is. Speaking of races, I told you I signed up for Craig Simmons' race. Ride to Walk. I put up the 12-hour, but then, he was posting some bids. He posted Ray Sanchez's bid 135.
Ray's going out there?
Yes, Ray's going to be there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so Ray ran, I think, that Cool Moon one just a little while ago.
Yeah.
That you were thinking about. So Ray's going to be there. And so I thought, you know what? I signed up for like the last 12 hours. Why not just sign up for the 100? I got to get to 80 in 24, which doesn't always happen. Depends on how I'm feeling. And so, of course, the problem is the reward. You get to 80 miles in 24 hours, and then you get another 8 hours to do another 20 miles. And you're like, That doesn't sound too
So,
good,
so did Ray sign up for the 100 or the 24-hour?
I believe he's doing the, um,
Say
I can't,
100, say 100, say 100.
I don't know which one I know, well, because it was confusing when I was talking to Craig. Um, I think he must have signed up for the 100.
Okay, I hope so.
It's confusing because I was talking about Ray Belonga, the kid we've run the endurance challenge
Yeah.
with. I did a podcast with him, and he only does like one ultra a year. He usually does blue or endurance challenge, and he's sort of itching to do a race. And I said, well, come up and do the race with Craig. Of course, that's the same weekend as Beyond Limits. Have you heard anything about Beyond Limits?
I have not heard a single thing. It's weird because you think there'd be some chatter one way or the other. Either,
Yeah.
hey guys, just letting you know we're on for sure, just reassuring you, or it's just not going to happen because that's only a month away now, right?
Yes.
5 weeks, maybe
Yeah.
4 or 5. Yeah, 5 weeks, I think.
Yeah, it's
so
the 14th, so yeah, 5 weeks.
Something's gotta happen here. So I don't know. Have you been on their race website lately? The last time I was on it, it didn't say anything one way or the other.
Well, they changed the 72 to a 67
I did see
hour
that
race. And
Yep.
I went and I thought I was on the watch list. So I click on the Ultra Sign Up watch list because then
Yeah.
you get all the emails about
Right.
races. And I hadn't heard anything, but I kind of already decided I wasn't going to go to that. And I wanted to, and so Craig's race. So I'm going to be there and sign up for the 100 miler. And, they will put you in the 24 if you don't quite get to, if you don't finish the 100. You won't be placed, which is fine with me. I kind of like that rule, but at least I'll get credit for it. So we shall see. Hopefully I'd love to have you there, but you're kind of right now, I know, up in the air depending on whether you're going to do blue or do Craig's race.
Here's where it comes down to me. I would like to do blue because I have the course record for the 72. I have the unofficial course record for the 48, which moving on. I'd like to set the course record for the 67 hour, but there's a price tag to that race, and I might be able to get some kind of a discount. So that money always comes into play as well. So I don't know. We'll see. And also, that's a whole lot more racing versus a 24-hour race. And I'll tell you honestly, if there's some really, really stiff competition in the 24, like if Ray is in the 24, it's like, because he's a really stiff competitor for me. But if he's in the 100, in the 24, all right, well then, different story. So I don't know. We'll see as we get closer in. I don't want to commit quite yet, and I still have a lot more hundreds I want to do in a row. And see how that beats up my body. And also, I like the idea of having variety. If I've got a bunch of 24s and some hundreds, if I have a 48 in there and a 72, be nice to throw in an odd like 67 hours. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a legacy there, and I like to do it, but kind of all the things you were talking about. That Charlotte gal is coming back.
Yeah,
from Canada.
Yeah. Verhasi or Vahasi.
Yeah.
I ran with her quite a few times at ATY, and she almost always will take the female win and sometimes the overall win even in like I think her sweet spot seems to be like 72 hour.
Yeah.
So the 67 hour is probably a really good race for her.
Yeah. So what's interesting is, in fact, Ray brought this up about, because he's been the blue, is when you go to try and sign up for Beyond Limits, it says sold out.
Oh,
all
that's
the races.
True. I did see that. Yes.
So I looked maybe like they're half full, maybe they're limiting it. So yeah, I mean, so we'll see. Yeah. So the 67 hour race starts at Friday at 7 p.m. So you could go do that and then drive to Ride to Walk, which starts at noon.
Oh, Ride to Walk starts at noon?
Yes.
On what day?
On Saturday.
Oh, I didn't know it started at noon.
Yeah. So you could start at blue at 7.
And do 24 hours.
Well, no way. You got to get to
Saturday. Oh no, that wouldn't work. If it started Thursday at 7, I could do that.
No, you do the race and then you come back and the race doesn't end till 2 on Monday.
Oh, I see. So you're saying get in some miles, like 40 miles, then drive out and do 100 there. you're actually giving me, you're laughing about it, but
I know,
that,
because for a second you're like, no, that
could
wouldn't work. like
no,
yeah.
that could work. That there's some possibilities there now. Don't be dissing that. There's
No, I'm not. I'm laughing because I'm like going, no, so like it's probably a hellacious drive. It'd almost be better if you could fly up.
wow.
Probably. Yeah. So, yeah, because it's probably like a 6 hour drive. So you could run from like 7
So
till midnight, like 5 hours. You said 40 miles, get to ride to walk, finish
no,
it.
no, no. You run from 7 till 7 the next morning, 12 hours, and then get a ride and sleep the whole time. So get someone that can drive me, or
Yeah.
maybe 7 to 6 a.m. Sleep for 6 hours. Get there at noon. Do knock out the 24. Then sleep for 6 hours on the way back, and finish out. That's 2 races in one weekend. That's doable.
So anyways, but I just saw that. So that's kind of my, I'm sure the distances are probably just insanely far, but you got what you better, but it'd be pricey is if you actually went and like got a ride to Palm Springs and flew out of Palm Springs to Sacramento.
Hmm.
Of course, that would be, I'm sure, kind of expensive. Yeah, Lincoln, California. I'm doing the math here to see what kind of
Uh,
drive. Oh yeah, it's only an 8 hour drive.
oh, it's 8 hour.
Well,
Yeah, that's a
that's
bit
like
long.
it, but yeah, it's 526 miles.
That's a bit far. Yeah. All right. Well,
So
maybe not.
yeah, so that's kind of I just was because for me when I drive to Blue, it's quite a drive to Blue. It's a good it's a good drive up. It's about the same for me to go to Lincoln. It's a little ways up, almost towards Auburn. So we shall see. And what other races do you have? I know we'll probably let you go here in a bit. What other races are coming up? You got um,
Well, I don't have anything next weekend because next weekend there is a 100-mile race in Illinois, and then there was supposed to be. Can you hear me if I talk over, or should I wait?
yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So there was also Headlands 100, which is supposed to be this coming weekend, which is a nice race. Got a lot of climb, but it's all at sea level.
Yeah.
I enjoy that race, but it beat me up a lot. So I decided, no, I'll take next weekend off. But then I saw something that caught my attention. It's a virtual race, like 24-hour and a 32-hour virtual race where you actually everyone's doing it at the same time, and you're showing your mileage, so it's not just on the honor system. And I thought that could actually be kind of interesting. Pick a little route at my house, maybe a 2 or 3 or 4 mile loop, and just say, hey, I'm going to be out here running for 32 hours. Come out and join me for a loop or two,
Yeah.
and maybe do some live Facebook stuff as people come out and join me. I was thinking about that as a possibility. I don't know, but anyway.
What race is that though?
I don't know. I got to look it back up, look it up again. It caught my attention, and then I moved on, and then I started thinking about it later on that, hey, that could be something that could be workable.
The reason I asked is because the Quarantine Backyard Ultra guys that put on that race, they have a summer series where 3 months ago they had a 20-minute run, and we all started at 6 a.m. California time, and then you posted your results. And then the following, and a month later, it was a 40-minute run. And then last month it was 3 hours. I came in dead last in the 20-minute. I came second to last in the 40. And in the 3 hour, I came like fifth from last. And then this coming weekend next weekend is a 12-hour. And so that's why I was wondering if you're getting, it must be something else, because theirs is not a 24-hour, it's just a 12-hour. But they have a format where it's in Canada. So they start at 7 o'clock Canadian time, which works for me, 6 o'clock my time. So like when you're doing the 40-minute run, some people, if they live around the world, are going out and doing it at 3 a.m. So 6 is kind of my wheelhouse. So I'm going to probably try and go out next week and do 12 hours, but it's supposed to be like 110 here. So I won't do too much. I'm actually going to just I came up with this kind of idea that I did last year in August. I did a ruck event, and rucking is like, what the military calls when they have to cover long distances and they have a rucksack.
Yep.
And these military guys kind of started this race. And it was a lot of fun. It was in San Francisco, and you basically have, it's a 50-mile race sort of, but there isn't an official course. It would be checkpoints. And so it'd be like, go to the stadium and take a picture, take a selfie by Barry Bonds, and then go to Chinatown. And so you had to hit all the points, and to prove you got there, kind of like Laz with the tearing out the pages of the book, you had to take a selfie and post it on Instagram, you in front of Barry Bonds or you in Chinatown, and then you finish the 50-mile, and there's a 25. And so I'm going to do some sort of version of that here in Bakersfield, where I'm going to go.
Fun.
Yeah, I'm going to go from like east, west, north, and south highs, maybe about 25, 30 miles. But the only thing that kind of with the ruck, they call themselves the Go Ruck company. The only thing that was kind of sucked about it is they want to make it more difficult, especially so you can't run. So you have to carry a weighted plate in your pack.
Oh.
And depending on your size, like if you're under 150 pounds, you have to carry 15. But if you're over 150, you have to put in 30. And I'm already 250, and then I throw in 30, and so 280, 290 pounds going up and down the hills of San Francisco. I went with, and I also didn't have a team, and I didn't know there was these cool apps that you can just put stuff in, and it'll show you the fastest route, and I don't know San Francisco at all. So I teamed up with some guys, stayed with them for about 20 miles, and then realized I was not having any fun, and I ended up stopping at like 25, and I ended up walking like 5 miles back to the bus station and went back home. But so that's what I'm kind of doing. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. That would be kind of something different. And then so you have that one, and then anything else that's actually officially going on?
The last weekend in August, there is a 24-hour race out in Ohio, and then the weekend after that is Labor Day weekend. And I'm going to be going to, it's called the LOTSE, LHOTSE. It's Wyatt Hockmeyer, a friend of mine in Oklahoma. So I'm going to do the 72-hour and the 100-mile. So I'll do two races. That's why the 67 and the 100, but they're too far apart. But anyway, 72 and 100 at that race. And then after that, there's some, it's iffy things. So I don't know.
All right. And are you planning, I know we talked about this before, but how many are you planning on trying to do?
I wanted to put together a string of like 10 in a row was kind of my goal, but I'm not so sure that's going to happen. I wanted to have a large enough, so the plan was this, to do a couple things. One is to do a whole bunch of them all at once, so it gets me that much closer to number 200, because I'd kind of like to have that done before the end of the year. Or it'd be really cool if I made, say, ATY 10-day was my 200, 100 or longer. So anyway, get a group of them, so that kind of gives me a big chunk closer to that. Also, to test my body to see how well I can do with the back-to-backs, because it's been a couple of years since I've done those. And then to take something more current and try and shop it for a sponsor and say, look, I'd like to go for this record of 52, but maybe even closer to 60 in a year, hundreds in a year. And, if they're like, well, yeah, you did that when you were a young man. Now you're, some old geezer. We don't want to back an old horse. I need to show them, hey, I still got the chops to do this. Look what I just did here, over a short period of time. So the idea in my mind was to do like 10 in a row. But I don't know. It's with COVID-19, it's so hard to find races, and it's costing a lot of money to do the travel, and it gets to a point to where how much money do I want to spend, that I'm putting on credit cards, hoping that that's an investment that I can get a sponsor to come and say, okay, yeah, we'll sponsor you for this big thing, or as we've said, do it with crowdfunding or with Patreon or some other. Get backing from just individual runners who want to see me be successful and want to take a part in helping me make that happen. So,
because I should know this, but this is like going to be what, the fourth or fifth one in a row?
It would be the fourth in a row, except for 2 weeks ago I dropped from the 24 to the 12.
But you went
and then I had the week before that I didn't, and the one before. So in the last 6 weeks, this would be my 5th 100, I think. The Badger, the Honey Badger, and then the three sisters,
Yeah.
and then last week, and so actually four. This is my fourth 100 in 6 weeks, I guess.
Okay. So, okay. I just, like I said, I was just kind of checking on, seeing what you're doing. And, it's kind of weird. Like I've been kind of talking to Ray and Craig and Adam. And it's weird because we can't really talk about the future because you're like, who knows? It's definitely, and it's like,
It's weird times.
and it's just pointless to even. Yeah, it was interesting. I was listening to some podcasts. I don't remember. I was Dan Carlin. He has this hardcore history show where he'll do like 3-4 hour shows of like 4 or 5 of them and talk all about Genghis Khan. And it's like spellbinding. Like you listen to him and they're really good. But he was talking and he said, he goes, the thing about it is you've got to realize in human history, we've been kind of in a holding pattern since World War II. And throughout human history, it's been short, sharp, and violent. And basically, like, we have this COVID going on, but like when the plagues hit in the past, yeah, the plague was around, but you also had cholera and diphtheria and yellow fever. You had all these other things, polio and measles, all these things that now we've gotten rid of. So now we're just fighting one thing, where in the past, it was like, yeah, this sucks, but life sucks. There's a whole bunch of other things trying to kill us. Kind of like right now we've got some unknown animal going after us that we don't really know how big or how deadly it is. But back in the day, you had lions, tigers, and bears and crocodiles, and everywhere you stepped. And in fact, there's a very entertaining movie. It's good and not good. It's Seth Rogen playing 2 parts, and it's called The Pickle Something. It's on HBO. I was watching it while I was on the treadmill, and it's basically this story of like this Eastern European guy who gets out of Eastern Europe, and they're showing how horrible and miserable it is. And he comes to America in 1919. He works at a pickle factory. He falls in the pickle brine, and he gets preserved and comes back 100 years later. But what is interesting is before he comes to the future, when he's in the old country, they're talking about death so much. And that's one thing that people don't realize. Throughout human history, death was part of your world. You just saw it all the time. You wanted to eat, you killed something. You in your house, grandma died, accidents. And so it's really funny watching the show. They do that really well because he's in 2019 and he's talking to people like, tell me about the death, honoring the dead. So because death was just so much of our world throughout human history. And so it's just been in this recent time where so many of us have never seen it, thankfully, knock on wood, never seen a dead body, don't have people dying around us. If they die, and then of course the bad thing about the COVID is that you now are dying alone. And throughout human history, and this kind of show is talking about like that when people died, you had your family and friends around. There was horrible accidents. And like in the show, not to give away, but in the show, like Seth Rogen's 2019 character, his parents die, and the guy's always asking like, how'd they die? Anybody he hears is dead, he wants to know all the story because that's what fascinated people then. And he's like, oh, how'd they die? Were they murdered? Were they some violence? And he's like, he goes, oh, they were in a car crash. And he goes, oh, so just normal death. But to me and you, car crash is like traumatic, horrible. But back in the day, people fell off of things, got ran over by horses. And so it's just an interesting, so that kind of way sidetracked, but just talking about this whole COVID that, yeah, it's bad, but throughout human history, we've just been lucky especially living in Western society, that we just haven't had all these kind of things going on. So,
well, yeah, look at the Black Plague. Black Plague took out 1/3 of the whole world or the European population.
Yeah. Well, there's interesting talk about how at one time, there's been weather changes and all kinds of things, and the human population supposedly at one time got down to 70,000 people. I mean, it wasn't big to begin with, but in fact, if you there's these theories, not to get all crazy town, but Joe Rogan brings on these scientists and stuff, and you often look at like, wow, how did the pyramids get built? How did the Mayans thing get going? All these, you see all these amazing things and thinking, how did they do this back then? But one of the theories is that you have a pandemic or some catastrophic event that basically wipes out a lot of people. And a few people that survive, one, don't have the knowledge of the people before them and are also too busy just trying to survive. And so hundreds of years go by and then we build back up. And so like in this system, I don't want to happen, but you have something really bad happen, the population completely shrinks, and then there's all these artifacts laying around, people like going, wow, how do these people do these pyramids? Because what we know now is barely enough to build them, but you don't realize like humans just kind of get to a huge level, and then some, natural disaster or man-made. I mean, like Easter Island was this amazing place, with those big old the big old rocks that look like people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that was a paradise, but you know what they did? It had forests and woods and everything. Well, they chopped all the wood down to burn and make houses, and then once they did that, they destroyed the ecosystem, and then everybody just starved to death. But for a while, it was like, nirvana. So don't want to have it in the world. But so it's just kind of this whole theme of like, and I've really enjoyed talking to you, and I now talking to Adam and other people, because it's a way that like all of them are saying, gosh, I miss seeing and talking to people going around and around at the races, just meeting our tribe. Like Adam said that, he's like, yeah, I usually would run into you from here or there. And obviously I would run into you. I've only seen you, I saw you back in January at our race. So
yep.
Yeah. And I guess the thing that's kind of weird for you though, is you are going to races, but you're not really running into too many people that Yeah, up in Georgia, you ran into Jamil. But the rest of the people are kind of, they know you. Yeah.
Jay and Ray.
Yeah.
And then there are people who knew who I was that
Yeah.
I maybe met, but I unfortunately didn't remember. But yeah. So also usually every race I go to, there's people there that I will recognize, a handful of people. And I expect this one in Oregon, since it's closer to home, I'll probably recognize a lot more people.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, I think I'll let you go. Maybe you can get some rest or food, or hopefully sleep on the plane. So you'll be landing into Portland is where you're going to.
Yeah. Do you know, do they have a tracking system for this race at all?
I saw on their website that it said something about timing by somebody. So I'm going to definitely look it up and see if it's on there. I think they might. I just was looking at their website and it said, timing by somebody. So hopefully it was.
Well, if you find it and it's convenient to post it on, one of the Facebook pages,
I've been doing that.
Yeah.
The last race will be chip timed by the expert timings at Race Northwest. I mean, last week's timing system was awesome. Yeah. So it's always fun just to kind of every few hours check it out and see how you're doing. And so,
I know people really appreciate that you posted that and posted the link. So I appreciate you doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Well, Northwest Timing Services. Yeah, I'll definitely. That's weird. Something completely crazy. We'll look it up. And what I end up doing usually is just on Facebook. I write the race directors, and a couple weeks ago, that 12-hour 40-24, they're like, no, we don't have any timing. And then others like, yes, we have timing. So just a few quick questions. Usually guys are good at it. So anyways, I kind of covered what we can talk about, and I'll let you go here and have safe travels. Oh, one last thing. You said if you won the race, you were going to shave that beard, but
okay. I lost my charger for my electric razor. I have not used a straight razor in probably 30 years. I probably end up cutting myself all up with that. So I need to find my charger, and if I can't find it, I'll just have to order another one. So I really wanted to get rid of it, but I'll shave it eventually.
It's getting pretty good there.
This is the thickest I've ever had a beard. I've never let it grow this much before. I just keep it pretty trim.
Now, you do know that like professional players, football, hockey, all the professional big league sports, when they, especially in the playoffs, they don't shave a lot of times, like tradition, or especially like if they're on a hitting streak or doing well, they don't shave until they lose. You'll see, especially football and hockey, definitely. Like they start the playoffs, and as long as they stay, so by the time they make like the World Series or the Super Bowl or the Stanley Cup, they all got beard, facial hair.
So because I'm the opposite, I'm winning, I'm shaving.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, you got to win. Maybe you want to keep it on until you lose.
I don't have any of those kind of superstitions. So
I'm sure that the family and friends probably don't like the beard. So.
Well, everything's all masked up. So, well, I'm not at home, but wherever I go, like my clients, they see me covered up. They might see a little bit of my neck fuzz, but
So, okay, well, I'll throw it to you. Say goodbye, Ed, and we'll talk later on, probably.
All right. Well, I always like to end with be kind to each other, be gentle on yourself, take one step today that can change the world tomorrow for good. And love everybody out there. Thanks for your support. Group hug to everybody. Have an amazing weekend. And Andy, maybe you and I will check back in on Monday and see how the race went.
Sounds good. Thank you for being with us.
All right. Very good. Have a good weekend.